Are you a chiropractor with a struggling practice, having a hard time finding and keeping patients? Is your staff falling short of expectations? I'm Dr. Scott Sawyer, and DC Trainings has the answers that you need. So tune in now and find out how. Hello, everybody. Welcome to DC Trainings. I'm Dr. Scott Sawyer. I'm excited to be with you today. I know we got a little bit of a late start, but thank you for joining. We're ready to go with DC Trainings, and today is a big day. We are kicking off Module 3, which is the Report of Findings module. And I'm excited to start this journey with you over the next 8 weeks because we're going to pick up right from the new patient module, which is where we talked about educating a new patient so that they understand the benefits of long-term chiropractic care and so that they stay with you for the long term based on that understanding and that information that you've shared with them. So that's where we left off with the new patient module. Of course, in addition to introducing them with chiropractic care, we want to begin their chiropractic care. But now we're going to dive into Module 3. And in Module 3, I want to show you how to take that momentum, that traction that you built in Module 2 with the new patient, and move it into the Report of Findings, which is where we want to further educate our patients and give a recommendation for lifetime care 1 year at a time. So I'm really excited to start this process with you, or this journey with you, because this leads to lifetime care families, children, parents, grandparents, all excited to receive chiropractic care and to enjoy optimum health, and you get to be the provider of that. So really important topic today. And with that, we're going to just jump right in because this is a perfect time to share some images. And in these images, you'll see that that essentially the gist of it is these are people that live in your community they're hardworking people for the most part, of course. They have families, they have children. They have jobs, they're driving the same streets with you, they're shopping at the same grocery stores with you. So as you think about that connection that you have with the people in your community, which on a note, because of the slide that's up in front of you, I grew up in the town that I practice in. I have lived in Santa Cruz for my entire life. I went to school here, I practiced here, I got married here, I raised my children here. So I'm deeply ingrained into this community, and it prides me to be able to share what I have to offer with my fellow community members and with the people that I see and know and live with in this city or town. And the same is true for you. Maybe you didn't grow up in the city that you practice in, but you're sharing that environment, that community with the people that you live with. And building that relationship and having them know that you are a long-term, stable part of the community in terms of healthcare, it'll lead to them really trusting you and building that rapport with you and maintaining that long-term relationship so that they trust you. I mean, there's no better way to say it, right? So we want to dive into that because BJ and Dee Dee Palmer, when they embarked on the beginning of our beloved profession, they saw this as a family affair, right? Dee Dee Palmer actually kind of butted heads with BJ Palmer when BJ wanted to build it more into a business, into a college, have that college be accredited and licensed. Dee Dee actually wanted to just teach the adjustment to everybody so that parents and husbands, wives, they could all just do this adjustment at home and help their families. So he didn't have the same vision that BJ had. He had this, let's just share this information and give it away. BJ said, no, this is something that needs to be more mainstream and build the business. He developed the profession, right? Dee Dee Palmer was the founder of chiropractic. BJ Palmer is known as the developer of chiropractic. And given that beginning that we all come from, here we are today with the greatest health profession in the world as far as healthcare goes, in my humble opinion, But here we are today, and we are thriving and growing, and people are seeking out this type of healthcare called chiropractic in bigger and bigger numbers all the time. So let's, obviously pay tribute to our founders for what we have and what we're able to do. One of my mentors coming out of chiropractic college was Dr. Jerry Clum. And unfortunately, he recently passed away. So I just wanted to extend my sympathy and condolences to his family and all of his loved ones. But he was a major force in chiropractic for many, many years, and certainly one of my mentors, and had a huge influence on me. And part of why I'm sharing this picture with you, aside from just paying respects to an amazing chiropractor, an amazing man, is to say, because of him, there are so many more people, more chiropractors who are excited about the work that they do. And he led that charge. He helped them to find their purpose and passion. So Dr. Clum was an amazing, amazing person. Here's me, right? I didn't know this was my 6th grade graduation picture, believe it or not. This is when I graduated from elementary school, 6th grade. And I had no idea what I was going to do in my future in life. And all I did then was, believe it or not, I rode a pony to school every day. So things were different then. But from there, we grow into what it is and who it is that we become in life. And as B.J. Palmer said, we never know how far-reaching something we may say, think, or do today will affect the lives of millions tomorrow. And my son actually is on track to go to chiropractic school now. So he was much younger then, but we just never know. The new patients that come into our practice could go on to become much more important people as they regain their health and as they enjoy the quality of life that they deserve, right? Here's Bobby Kennedy. Bobby Kennedy is now running for president. And obviously he's a big fan of chiropractic. And so in my opinion, not to get too political, but I am excited about that. Here's somebody who's a big advocate for chiropractic, who's running for the top seat in the United States, and we'll see what happens from there. But that's pretty exciting because at some point, somebody adjusted him, and he got excited from that adjustment and became a big fan. And so many of our new patients go through that same process, and we never know where that will lead to, right? So here's our retention sequence for beginning module 3. We're over here on the far right, and the report of findings. We obviously started the year with team development. We went into then new patient, which we just finished up, and now we're gonna talk about the report of findings. Next, we'll get into financial arrangements. Then lifetime care is module 5, and we'll wrap up the year with goals and marketing, and then we'll repeat the cycle because that's what leads to a successful practice. Now, here's the interesting phenomenon that we're going to go through right now, and that is that we are moving through a 3-module sequence, right? We started the year obviously with team development. That was module 1. However, module 2 was new patient, and in new patient, we taught you all the pieces of that. Now we're going to go into report of findings, which piggybacks onto module 2. So report of findings is the next step. The next module is going to be financial arrangements. And those 3 modules are really the foundation of a successful practice. If you want to have a successful practice in so many ways, right? Whether it's patients or staffing or income or whatever it is, those 3 fundamentals have to be in place or you will not have a successful practice. So as we wrap up module 2, I want to make sure that any questions that you have, we get those answered and make sure that you have that plugged in, because now, and that essentially that was like algebra. Now we're going to move into the report of findings and the financial arrangements, which is more like calculus. And you can't get to calculus until you've mastered algebra, right? It's a prerequisite to take it to that next level. So I just share that analogy with you because I think it'll help you to really stay connected as we move through module 3. Now, from there, think about your practice as a high ceiling practice. A high ceiling practice means how many patients can you take care of? Could you take care of more patients? As it says on the screen, can your capacity for serving patients increase? And if yes, if it can, what's stopping you? Why not do it now? Let's crank up the volume. Let's really raise our ceiling if we need to, so we can serve more people. Ask yourself this: can your entire team deliver the report of findings? Meaning that each CA on your team, can they deliver a report of findings so that it frees up the doctor to do more adjusting? And if they can't do that and help you out, doctors, why not? What's stopping you? Is it training? Is it staffing? What is it that's stopping you? Where is the subluxation in your practice that's preventing you from maintaining a high ceiling practice? Okay, ask yourself that question. Now, we're going to talk about conversion rates in the report of findings process, but I want to just define a couple of terms here. So high conversion rates means converting new patients into long-term care plans that will bring higher volume and ongoing payments or profits. Meaning that for every patient that signs up for a new care plan, from there, they'll be able to continue their care with you. And if it's a longer care plan, like a 12-month care plan, during that care plan, they'll either prepay for the whole package, or they'll pay for monthly payments, and those should be automated to not overwhelm your front desk. So this process of having high conversion rates means that you'll have a guaranteed steady income stream, which obviously to run a successful business, we need to have that. And equally as important, or maybe even more important, you'll have a steady flow of patients that you're taking care of, many of which will stay on for as long as you're in practice, right? Lifetime care. And by setting it up at the front end in the report of findings to do that, that means that you'll be able to enjoy that sort of stability or that foundation in your successful practice. So you want to aim for that. You want to aim for high conversion rates with or from your report of findings. I want to just help you out with tracking this. And I've supplied lots of materials for you with DC trainings. This is one of my favorite. It's the weekly report. And in the weekly report, you're going to track 3 numbers. Okay, as far as it relates to the report of findings. 3 numbers, that's it, very simple. The 3 numbers are how many report of findings were scheduled per day, and of the ones that were scheduled, how many arrived, and that's per day again, and then how many started, how many actually signed up for a care plan, not just a visit, but a care plan. Now, I know there's some of you that like to do the per visit. That's fine, I understand that. But I think in terms of having stability in your practice and having a solid foundation and helping you to sleep better at night with a successful business, you want to have extended care plans. Plus, the benefit is the patient will get better results if there's more of a roadmap in terms of how to get there. So it's important to know how many report of findings were scheduled, right? If there were 3 scheduled and only 2 showed up, what happened to the 3rd one, right? What about the one that didn't show up? Did they reschedule? Okay, great. Or did they just not show up? Or worse yet, did they cancel without rescheduling? We need to know these numbers so that we can accurately predict what's happening with those report of findings. And if there's a pitfall that's happening in our new patient process that's leading to the new patients not returning for a report of findings, what's that pitfall? How can we shore that up? So we want to make sure that we know these 3 numbers around our report of findings. And I also want to just define the term start. Now, this is important because what does it mean to have an ROF start or a report of findings start? There's 3 criteria for the person to be labeled as a start. And the 3 criteria are, number 1, they got adjusted, right? In order for a report of findings to be called a start, they have to get adjusted. I mean, that's the chiropractic care service that we provide. So that's number 1, did they get adjusted? Number 2, did they schedule all the appointments in their care plan? Now, that care plan in DC trainings, as I teach it, is a 12-month care plan. It's not a, we'll see you next week for 1 more visit, come back when you're hurting kind of care plan. It's a, we have a roadmap, we have a plan, we have an objective that we want to get you from point A to point B, and this is how we're going to get you there. So that whole care plan is scheduled for the report of findings, to be called a start. So they got adjusted, they scheduled all their appointments for the care plan, and the third one is they made a payment. Now, whether that payment is a deposit towards their care plan or it's a monthly payment as far as their whole care plan goes, or whether it's prepaid, that's what counts as a payment. In my office, I don't count them paying for that visit as a payment. That doesn't count, only because we have longer care plans. Now, if you're doing a per visit, visit by visit type of recommendation, then yeah, if they pay for that visit, you would count that as part of the start criteria. But in general, in my office, we want those three things. Did they get adjusted? Did they schedule their appointments? And did they make a payment? And if they did those three things and not anything short of those three things, then we would call them a start, as you see on your screen here. Now, let's just look at some numbers. And this once that weekly report is filled out, those numbers get transferred into the goals tracking system, which you all have access to through your DC Trainings membership. But those get transferred in there, and then we look at our success rates to see how are our conversion rates going with regards to our report of findings. So here's an example. I just pulled these numbers from last month this year. So these are real-time numbers. For April 24, we had 41 reports of findings that arrived. That means they came to their appointment. Now, I could add another statistic to this. I didn't put it in here, but I could add how many were scheduled also, right? How many were scheduled, how many arrived, and then next was how many started. So in this case, we're measuring a success rate of how many started compared to how many arrived. And in this case, it was 88%, which I've taught you in our DC Trainings general criteria. We want to have that number be above 80%, or well, 80% or higher. So this was a great statistic. We're at 88%, 36 out of 41 started a 12-month care plan, and away we go. So just an example of how that can move. So you would have it start with your weekly report, then move into the goals tracking system, and then that produces the success rate reports, which I'm showing you the numbers from. Just real quickly, I wanted to say hello to Casey. I see you on the call. I'm going to try to, in just a moment, I'm going to open up your line. So don't jump off quite yet, but I see you on there, and I just wanted to say hi because I don't think I've actually said hi to you yet. So welcome to the call today, and hang tight, and I'll check in with you in just a couple minutes. Okay, so let's keep going here. Now, here is our first week in the series. We're going to talk about preparing for the report of findings, meaning that when the patient comes, are we prepared to begin this process? Next week, we'll get into greeting the patient and the spouse. So how does that introduction work? Then in week 3, we'll talk about how the CA delivers the report of findings and the distinction between when a CA is doing it versus when the doctor is doing it. There's a real key distinction there, and it's important to build trust and rapport with the patient and the CA that the patient might not provide at first because they're thinking that the doctor is going to go over the results with them. So we'll talk about how to overcome that challenge. Then we're going to talk about how to show the patient their subluxations, how to really have them identify and take ownership around their condition. And by taking ownership, that's going to help them to plan ahead and prioritize that, or your care, as part of their ongoing healthcare protocols. We're going to talk about future projections, which is a way to motivate, or maybe a better word is to prioritize chiropractic care with the patient in their list of healthcare approaches. We want to have chiropractic care be a huge priority and have them have huge value for chiropractic. And so we do that through the future health projections. Then we're going to talk about creating care plans. And as I've mentioned, our tagline in DC Trainings is lifetime care, 1 year at a time. So we'll talk about how to create longer care plans to give more of a roadmap towards optimum health rather than a quick fix for pain relief. We'll talk about how to incorporate insurance into your report of findings and leading into the financial arrangements in Module 4. And then we'll sum all that up with sort of an overview and a recap, which is the reactivating new patient report of findings for those patients that left and then they came back. how do we re-inspire them to dig back in and commit to more of an ongoing chiropractic care protocol as opposed to just showing up when they hurt and getting a quick fix and then leaving again? So we want to make sure that we help them with the bigger picture understanding, and we'll talk about that in week 8. So let's dive into the first one, which is preparing for the report of findings. And I want to just frame this quickly because as many of us are aware, when a patient goes into a doctor's office, they don't always get the most wow greeting, right? They don't get a memorable welcome oftentimes. And in our offices, because especially with what I've taught you with DC trainings, they do get a memorable welcome. They leave the office after their first visit saying, wow, I'm going to remember this. This is not something that I've experienced at any other doctor's office before. This really made an impression on me. So we want to make sure that we're prepared in the follow-up appointment when they come back for the report of findings to continue that momentum, to continue that level of service, right, into the second visit. So as we do this, I want you to think about this, because how many of us have had new patients come in and then either not show up for the report of findings, or when they do show up for the report of findings, they just want a quick fix? Or another thing that happens, which is unfortunate, is that many patients in general, when they go to doctor's appointments, they're waiting around. It doesn't seem like their care is a priority. They don't seem like a really important part of that practice. They're just sort of thrown into the mix. So we want to prepare for the report of findings in a way that makes that real next level impression with the patient and continue it into the second visit. So we want to be prepared in a way that really keeps that top level service going through all of their appointments. So how does this work? I'm going to meet with the CA first. So my CA comes to me. We'll talk about this in the scripts in a moment, but the CA comes to me and says, hey, doctor, there's a patient ready in this room. They're ready for the report of findings. Can you please go over the results with me and then take me into, and I'll deliver the report of findings, right? This is from the CA. So we're reviewing the file there, and we're reviewing key parts and pieces of information, which I'll show you in just a minute. As we're going in, this is the key of where we left off from the first visit. Now, just real quickly, I'm going to pause my screen because, as I said, I was going to come back. I want to say hello to Casey. So, Casey, if you don't mind opening up your line, I want to just say hello. So, Casey, are you there?
I'm here. How you doing?
Great to see you on the call. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
Now, which practice are you with?
I'm in Nashville, Tennessee with Action Spine and Joint.
Excellent. I think you were on our call last week, so you're joining as a guest. Welcome.
Yeah, I am.
All right. I'm actually going to be traveling to Nashville next month, so
Good
maybe
deal.
we'll cross paths.
Yes, sure.
Great. Well, welcome to DC Trainings. I just wanted to say hello because I saw you hop on last week, but I'll follow up with you. I'd love to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, so let's keep going. Always nice to meet another fellow DC in the world, and especially on the other side of the country. All right, again, picking up from that first visit, right? CAs, before you go in and deliver the report of findings, you want to have your mindset right. You want to have that frame of mind. And one of the best ways to do that is to know that where you left off on the first visit was in a good place. Now, what does in a good place mean? It means, CAs, ask yourself on that first visit, and it could be doctor or CA, whoever did that first visit appointment, that consultation, that history with the new patient, ask yourself, did I establish a primary concern with a duration of greater than 1 year and include all major effects on lifestyle, right? The patient came in, for example, with low back pain. Well, maybe that's their primary concern. And has it been there for 2 days after they were mowing the lawn, or has it been a repeated pattern over several years? And this time when they were mowing the lawn just happened to be the time that aggravated it enough to where they actually got around or prioritized and called you, right? What do you think is more common? It's actually the latter, right? Most often when we kind of dig with some questions, we call it digging for chronicity, we'll find that our patients have actually been putting up with these health challenges longer than just the last couple of days when it finally hit a point and drove them to get in touch with you and make an appointment. So we want to ask questions and do what's called dig for chronicity to find out, has this been a repeating problem? Obviously, for those of us who have been in practice for a long time, we know that most patients or most people in general tend to procrastinate when they have a health problem. Those 5 dangerous words, maybe it will go away, right? And that's those words are very dangerous. So we want to make sure in our questioning in the first visit that we get all those details. What's their primary concern? How long has it actually been going on? And how is it affecting them? What is it that they would enjoy doing if it wasn't there and it's preventing them from doing it? Do they love to golf? They can't golf now. They love to pick up their children. They can't pick up the kids now. Things like that have to be documented on that first visit so that when we get to the report of findings, we can then revisit that. And I'll just say this, and this is something that you want, if you're taking notes, write this down. And I see Dr. Knitsch on the call today. So welcome, Dr. John. I know you've actually been with DC Trainings for more than a decade now. So you know this process. And I love how you always bring your team on the webinars and have them join you for the webinars so that, as a new CA comes in, they get trained. But you would know this in the sense that when patients really start sharing this information with you and you get it documented, the more you have documented, the easier the report of findings. The more certain you'll be that, yes, this patient is going to sign up for care because we know, and now they know, what's really happening under the surface, how it's really affecting them, and what it's really preventing them from doing that they would like to be doing, but they can't because they have these subluxations in the way. So that's an important thing to accomplish in the first visit so that we can come back and revisit it in the report of findings. Now, once we've done that, okay, I'm sorry, let me just back up real quickly and say, what you're seeing on the screen right now is what you doctors are going to review with your CA before you go in the room if your CA is delivering the report of findings. You're going to help your CA to focus their mind on this question on the screen. You're going to help your CA to focus their intentions for the outcome of the report of findings, right? So we want to make sure that we help center around that and focus around that. And doctors, if you're going to do the report of findings yourself, take a moment to do this for yourself too. Maybe you were coming from doing, repetitive adjusting of patients. So you're in a different frame of mind. There's like, I'm seeing these patients, I'm adjusting them. They're great patients. I've taken care of them for years. I'm very comfortable with the flow and the process and how they present and how I care for them. But you're going into a new patient's environment. You're walking into a new relationship, and it's a different frame of mind. And we want to make sure that we center our minds in that way so we can really build rapport and empathy and ultimately a long-term relationship. So here's the process. So the new patient left. After they exit, they left, we complete the file. And this is in preparation for the report of findings. So how do we complete the file? Well, we want to fill out our roadmap, right? The corrective care worksheet, or as we call it, the care plan worksheet, is going to have recommendations for their first year of care. So that has to be filled out and completed and made ready before the patient comes back for their report of findings. I'm smiling because I was just actually on the phone this week with a doctor who's new in practice, and he was kind of chuckling and telling me about how his report of findings showed up and he couldn't find the file and there was paperwork missing. So, and since he laughed about it, I can laugh about it too. It was kind of funny, but now he knows that when the report of findings patient comes back, we want to have everything ready so that when they walk in, we're ready to go and we hit the ground running. So we're going to complete the care plan worksheet. We're going to prepare the x-rays ahead of time. If you take x-rays, make sure those are ready. Are they marked? Are the lines of mensuration on there? Are they imported into the file? Has their insurance been verified? Really important. You don't want to be fumbling around looking for insurance benefits when your patient's sitting there asking you, how much is this going to cost, right? We want to have all of that prepared and completed after the new patient left so that when they come back, we're ready to go. and we're going to set aside some key things. I just want to sort of frame this for you because I don't, in my office, you may be a little different in this regard, but in my office, I don't need to go in with the whole patient's file. And there are many practices that have paperless files or paperless systems now, sorry. We like to start with a paper file, and then as soon as that file is completed after the report of findings, then we scan all of those documents into the patient's digital file, and from that point forward, their file is all digital. But we like to start with those papers first, just help us to stay organized. And I know there's offices out there that are all digital, and that's fine, but get these things ready in the file. And then these are the items that I bring into the room to actually sit down and go over with the patient. So I want to review the summary of charges. Why the summary of charges? I want to know how much they paid on their first visit. Was this a promotional event and it was discounted? Was it a free offer of some kind? Was it an insurance first visit that was covered and just had a copay? I need to know these things. And on the summary of charges, I wrote down the name of the spouse who was supposed to come back with them to the report of findings. So if I know that name already, before I go in the room, I want to know, if Mary was the new patient and John was supposed to come with her, is John here, right? Did she follow through and bring him with her? And we'll get into that more as we go into next week, which is the spousal part of the report of findings. So we'll cover that next week. But I want to see the consultation details. I want to know what are the primary concerns, how long have they been there, and what are the effects, and the exam findings. Do they have degenerative changes with their subluxations? Do they have a reverse curve in their neck lordosis? What are the findings on this exam? Because that's going to help me to really, once again, center my mind around what is going on with this patient. And then I want to have the corrective care worksheet. That's the care plan worksheet where all of my recommendations are laid out based on the objective findings. Actually, I'm going to open up my screen again because this was another call that I did this week with another doctor who's relatively new in practice. But what she's doing, sorry, this is a lady doctor, but she was filling out the recommendations in front of the patient. Now, think about that. If you're filling out your recommendations in front of the patient and the patient's sitting there with their arms folded and saying, how much is this going to cost and how long is this going to take? Do you think that might influence your recommendations? You might be thinking, oh my gosh, maybe I better shorten the care plan because if I don't shorten it, then they'll say they can't afford it and then they won't sign up. So maybe I'll shorten the care plan, make it a little more affordable, and then hopefully they'll sign up. So what I shared with her and what she was excited to learn is that if you do your recommendations not in front of the patient, but actually in an objective way when you're looking at the results of the exam, you'll find that you're much more accurate and give better recommendations without being influenced by a patient who is already telling you that there may be some challenges. Now, as we get more into the report of findings, I'm going to show you how to overcome those, we call them overcoming objections. So we're going to show you how to overcome those objections as we go through this, but we want to start with a clean slate. So those three things are going to be set aside. That's what we're going to take into the room, and that's where we're going to begin. There's a couple of documents on the website I'll show you in just a minute, but these are important to follow because the report of findings checklist helps you to really implement each step in the report of findings. And for those of you with some of the larger practices where you have CAs doing most of this stuff, and maybe you have associate doctors doing this stuff, this part, for those of you who have that environment, you want to make sure that that checklist is completed for each patient that comes in, because then you know there was no part of the sequence was dropped, the patient's getting the level of service that they deserve, and the outcome of those report of findings is going to be higher conversion rates, right? So the checklist is there for some of the larger practices and for those of you who are just learning and you just want to make sure that you don't miss any of the steps. I also put in the report of findings outline, which is great for implementing and training. So if you use the outline, that'll help you to follow the steps in a way that gets the best results and the highest conversions as well. So those are on there. And here we go. So the reception greeting. So now your patient is about to come into the office for their report of findings. They've arrived, second visit, right? So CA, greet the new patient and the spouse by name, right? You have the names, they're right there in the file. So greet them by name, escort them into your report of findings room. So take them in there and provide them with the Our Report of Findings document. It's a material in DC trainings. It talks about subluxations. It talks about degeneration. Give that to them to read while they're in the room waiting for just a couple minutes for the person to come in and start the report of findings. Then the reception CA goes back up to the front desk. So that reception greeting just happens real quickly. Hi, John. Hi, Mary. It's great to see you. And then they walk them back, and then they give them the report of findings, Our Report of Findings, and they come right back to the front desk. So that's that first step. Make it impactful. Now, there is one thing I want to share, because as we left off from the new patient sequence, when the patient left at their last visit, we had this kind of a tempo. We have this demeanor, right? The demeanor was, hey, when you first came in, we greeted you with a memorable welcome. We were happy, we were smiley, we were upbeat, we were excited to have you come in as a new patient. We're ready to go. We left off the new patient appointment with, wow, there's some potentially serious stuff going on here. The doctor needs to review this carefully and determine how advanced your condition is, but we are looking forward to helping you. When they come back for the report of findings, you want to carry that tempo forward, not the, hey, it's so great to see you, everything's fine tempo. This is the welcome back. The doctor's been expecting you. Let's get started. Okay, there's a different tempo there, and it carries the seriousness of the condition, but it also builds commitment on the part of the patient when they see, hey, the office is concerned about me. I guess I better be concerned too, and I should follow their recommendations. So that's a part of that sort of underlying tempo that I want to make sure that you're aware of. So then, before beginning the report of findings, the doctor and the CA review the file. Now this part, I want you to write this down. If you don't have your printed notes, write this down, or you can print out the materials off the website and write these down on there. But the reason why I'm sharing this with you is for this reason. These are the important components when a CA is going to deliver the report of findings that will build your CA's confidence to deliver these findings with certainty. You want them to have certainty in their explanation, in their demeanor, in their rapport. They need certainty. And by reviewing these details, you'll build that certainty for them so that they can deliver that report of findings effectively for the patient. So the first one is the primary concerns, right? We're going to review those. We're going to review the cause and the duration. So this low back pain, it flared up a week ago with mowing the lawn, but it's actually been there off and on for the last 10 years, about 3 or 4 times a year. So something is not healing in there. And based on the exam, we found subluxations in the lower back. We found that they're in a phase 2 of degeneration. Then we also found that they are not able to mow the lawn, for example, anymore, or they can't lift their kids, or they've been missing time from work. So those are the effects on lifestyle. Here's the recommendations completely filled out. So this is what the doctor's recommending for the patient. And they are a cash patient, or they're a personal injury case, or whatever the financial arrangements look like for that patient. So we want to review those findings before we go into the room. And above all, be prepared to start on time, right? Very important. People get used to going into doctor's offices and waiting for 45 minutes or an hour to see the doctor. If you have people who want to incorporate this as part of their lifestyle, as part of their ongoing commitment to their own health, we can't have them waiting around over and over and over again. People are just too busy these days. They want convenience, they want promptness, and they want a caring environment. So to fulfill that obligation on our part and to meet their expectations, start the report of findings on time. If the report of findings was at 11:45 in the morning, let's make sure that we're going, and they arrive on time, or maybe even a few minutes earlier, let's make sure that somewhere between 11:45 and 11:50, we are in the room delivering the report of findings, or at least beginning the report of findings. Very important. And by doing that, we'll build rapport, we'll set expectations, or we'll meet expectations, and we'll build that great relationship for the long term. Okay, so next week we're going to talk about how to greet the patient and the spouse. That'll be in the room. and we'll take it from there. But for now, I want to just jump over to the website and see, and I have it here. Bear with me for just a moment. Okay, so these are the documents on the website. There we go. The first one is the report of findings outline. I mentioned that. You'll go through this. This is step by step. This is a great training tool, and you can use this to not only encompass Module 3, which is the report of findings, but you can also use this to jump ahead if you want and tie in overcoming objections, the financial arrangements, right? This is actually getting into Module 4, as you can see here, Module 4. This gives a really good summary that encompasses both Module 3 and Module 4, all on one single piece of paper. So it's a great material for you. The next one is the report of findings checklist. As I said, this has room to write the patient's name on it, because this can be actually included in each patient's file. And from a training perspective, it goes from the day 1 for both the CA and the doctor. And then it goes over on the second column into day 2 for the CA, the doctor, and then the CA. So it covers the whole sequence of modules 3 and 4 from the standpoint of making sure you don't miss any steps that are really important for retention and for optimum outcomes. So that's on there for you. That'll be in each patient's file. There's a script for the ROF. So this is where the CA comes up to the doctor and says, hey, I've got a patient in the room for their report of findings, and I'm ready. And then you go through and get started. So that's there for you. And it also talks about which documents you want to have handy as you go into start the report of findings. And then last but not least, here is our weekly topics for Module 3 for 2024. So those are all there for you. Each of those weeks 1 through 8 is outlined with all the materials. And so that's there as well. All right, and that is where we wrap up. So I think this is a good time for questions. If anyone has questions, you can raise your hand. I'm happy to open up your line. It's great, again, to see you, meet you, Casey, on the call. So I'll look forward to talking with you more. And as always, any questions you have with DC Trainings, you can email us at dctrainings@gmail.com. And that's trainings plural. And let's jump into it week by week. This was a great start and a great beginning for this module. And by doing this, we'll all have more successful practices, serve more patients, have more fun, and maintain a steady, high income as we deserve, giving the best chiropractic care in the world. I will talk to you next week. Thanks again for joining.
If you would like to become a member of DC Trainings, be sure to head on over to dctrainings.com to get started today.